Thank you. Guten Tag, everybody. Good day. My name is Dr. Patty Evans. I am a 20-plus year serial entrepreneur, and currently I'm president of a multidisciplinary mental health facility as well as a software startup. So you sit back and go, well, how come there's a clinical sexologist up here telling us the care and feeding of our open source developers? Well, I've been doing the care and feeding of open source developers for well over a decade. I speak geek very well. I live with 2 of them and have produced 2 more of them. So I'll give you a little bit of my background and actually what I do on a day-to-day basis. I hold a PhD in clinical sexology. I also hold multiple master's and bachelor's degrees from everything from chemistry to business. I am also a licensed mental health counselor, a doctor of oriental medicine, and a Supreme Court certified family court mediator, certified traumatologist. So a lot of the work that I do, I would say, is diplomacy and a lot of education and coaching. I have a 3-tiered private practice in Tampa, Florida, where in Tampa, Florida, where I have 1/3 of my practice is traumatology, everything from disaster recovery to somebody who's a survivor of domestic violence. Second portion of my practice is working with relationships and sexuality. And the third section is I go into corporations and companies as a consultant in order to go in and help to change corporate culture, embrace team management. I also coach business owners and entrepreneurs and such. So it's a very eclectic background. The mentor for my practice is Dr. John Gottman. Does anybody know who Dr. John Gottman is out there? Of course, everyone who's my friend. Notice. Dr. John Gottman is the foremost researcher in the entire world studying couples and marriage. And his work has completely changed the way that we view interaction with people. And so what I have done is I have taken the work of John Gottman over the years and I've adapted it to various different other systems, very effectively, actually. Now, let me really share with you why I'm here today. So, being a serial entrepreneur, my job has always been kind of the business end, the sales end, the speak end, or I'm the doctor, or I'm the blah, 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 blah. And my partners have always been the one that kind of managed the IT stuff. I had the Princess program for IT. And I would say easily, the only conflict we've ever had, besides Jim telling me that I wasn't allowed to purchase something, really involved all of our software needs, because I didn't get it. So things would not be done on time, and things would break, and they wouldn't be the way I wanted them, and yada, yada, yada. So I decided, my inner narcissist says, I'll learn to code and do it better. And now I'm here and on video saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please remove that part out of the video, I'm hoping. So, in all reality, actually it was one of the most, it was almost like a life-changing experience when I taught myself how to code. First of all, I really liked it, for starters. And I understood the layers and the onions behind it, the layers like an onion behind it now. And it gave me a sense of empathy that I was not able to understand before. It also, the other reason I'm here is because I've been to almost all the Selenium conferences, but like 2 or 3. My friends, my colleagues, most everybody that I'm involved with is traditionally in software and IT. So I must be a fetishist of IT and software and some sort. So one of the things that I do a lot, especially in my practice, because I do see a lot of geeks, is I spend a lot of time soothing them because of poor interactions from people telling them that their code is shit. I did it. I broke the rule. Ah! So I cannot tell you how ugly people are on the internet. somehow, even when your name is associated with it, people are abusive. You know, I sit and I read some of the work, and they just don't get it. And one of the things that I want to mention is that I understand that there are many, many technical folks that are anti-feelings in the industry. I get it. Code doesn't have feelings. Thank God for that, or we'd all be a mess. But you know what? Code is made by people. And people with healthy amygdalas are going to have feelings associated with their code. Now, for the 4% of you that are sociopaths, great. I'm really glad that you're choosing to write code and be critical of code versus maybe killing somebody. But unfortunately, 96% of the population that still has a functioning amygdala can't help but be attached to their work, especially those that are in our field. Software people, when you write code, you developers, that's a piece of your soul in there. How many of you have been in a manic state and had people slide pizza and Pop-Tarts underneath the door for days at a time without showering because you just had to get this code out of your head? You couldn't stop until you got there. And just to even get to that space, you have to do this intricate sort of puzzle just to be able to get there. Anybody? Or are you all like 9 to 5, blah, blah, blah? Okay. Art is very similar to that. An artist almost becomes in a manic place when they have their art inside of them and they have to get it out and it doesn't go away till it's done. And I think one of the most powerful things that I learned through this whole process is that if coding were easy, we'd be paying kids after school $10 an hour to do it, but it's not. It is layer upon layer. You have to use both sides of your brain. You not only have to be strategic, but you also have to have an abstract concept for visualization, especially those that are playing with UIs, and you have to be able to plan ahead and sequence. It's unbelievable the amount of genius it takes. So kudos to all of you that are here. So why should we give a crap about communicating with our contributors for open source projects? Any reason why other than good manners? Our open source contributors are the single most important element that we have. The coders that code Selenium, as Simon discussed earlier, are some of the more talented. They have jobs that pay them a lot of money. They have friends, families, children, or not, hobbies, a life. But they choose to take their $300 hour time that they can't take back, by the way. Time is a commodity, a resource that once you've used it, you're done. So these fine men and women who are developing are taking hours upon hours of their lives away from their families in order to do something to make our little software world a better place. What I do know that happens, and I understand we all get frustrated, we all do, but some contributors are going to quit then. How many of you want to put in 20, 30, 40 hours a week into a project just to have someone tell you, you suck? I guarantee you I wouldn't do that. So, in order to recruit contributors, they need to feel like their open source project that they're going to put their valuable time on is going to be appreciated and is going to be respected, even if it is ugly, even if it is wrong, that there is some sort of gratitude for the energy that you put in. And let me remind you that these men and women, our developers, are not just sitting at home writing code and that's all they do to contribute. Oh my gosh, we collaborate all the time. We go to conferences, we have meetings, some work on extra projects to refine skills to bring back over to Selenium. It's often, in fact, I have called Selenium my husband's mistress for about as long as he's been working on it, 7 years. It truly is. He spends probably more quality time with Selenium, especially when he was building the WebDriver, than he does with his beautiful bride. So I understand the sacrifice that these contributors make. On the other hand, I do believe that open source offers something special to contributors. It offers a sense of belonging. That, by the way, is the number one motivator for all human behavior, the need to belong to the group, whether it's a group of 2 or more. We are herd animals. Tell me, if you look at our culture, cross-generationally and cross-culturally, seems to me that the only social constructs that really stick around are the ones that involved n equally more than one. But I could be wrong, even down to breeding. We are meant to be a herd. So, what I am introducing today, by the way, if our contributors leave, there is no more Selenium, it's gone. We have to have them. People say, well, users are important, and yes, users are important, but if we don't have anybody writing it, how do we get the users at the end of the day? So I developed the sound communication framework, which is really kind of a basic recipe for making sure that your open source software project turns out to be a functional, cohesive, and collaborative team so that you are able to be more productive. I mean, I could sit here and quote research all day long about attitudes of employees. You treat your employees really, really well, they work really hard for you. Every company we've ever had, we have that same philosophy, and it works. They don't mind giving extra. They don't mind working hard if you are good to them. There is a research study done a couple of years ago, it's really interesting, about how almost primal it is for us to avoid pain. By the way, if you ever get one piece of advice from me, never, ever, ever avoid information that could affect your health or your income, because that's just dumb. You need to plan ahead if somebody's getting ready to tell you you're about to lose a lot of money or that you're about to get real sick. There was a study related to this where at a university where they were pulling blood from students, right, it's typical college students, to get paid for a project. And at the end of it, they had their vials of blood, and they were going to either have their blood tested for herpes, okay, and they would have a completely anonymous results, the whole 9 yards. So no one in the entire world would know they were positive. Or if they gave them $10, they could dump the blood out. Do you know that higher than like 60% of them dump the blood out? Think about that. We are trained instinctually not to want to hear uncomfortable news. Now, consequently, there was another study done about good news. And what we found was if people paid to be able to not have to wait for good news, they did. So here's where I'm going with this. If user A, Jim, may I borrow you for a moment? If user A sends me an email that says what? Send me an email, user A.
WebDriver's broken.
Oh.
Like 5. WebDriver is broken.
Okay, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? Now, every time I see that person's email, what immediately comes to mind? Right? Does anybody want to open their email and their shit is broken? Anybody? Really? Right? So, with that premise in mind, knowing what the research says, it's a really, really good idea to put lots of positive information into any sort of contact that you have with your open source team, whether user or contributor. My sound communication framework is designed to help your team develop trust, positive perspective, cohesiveness in order to prevent the best collaborative environment. One important note, guys. Oftentimes, the needs for the open source project will not always match the user's needs. And that puts the contributors into kind of a funny position. However, I will tell you, they want help. If you see something that needs to get done and we don't have the spoons for it, please come and join us, contribute, take pictures, whatever you need, learn. We would love to bring you in and embrace you, make you part of our little commune here. So, looking at our framework at the bottom, Anybody in here ever built a house? Lived in a house? What do we know about house building? I know, not civil engineers. We know that a house built on sand is stable? Yes? No? Have y'all watched the news with hurricanes lately? Seriously? Yeah, that's a bad choice to build a house on sand, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not an engineer, but I'm telling you that's a bad idea. They crush. Especially when you mix it with water, they sink. What kind of foundation withstands that? And that is a strong one. So even if up here at the very top we're having conflict in our team, guess what? They're going to resolve it appropriately and in a very healthy, positive fashion. But if the foundation of mutual respect and trust development isn't there, it's going to just turn into a whole bunch of drama. Those of us who avoid drama, I don't know many testers and developers that like drama. So what we do know is that there needs to be a 5-to-1 ratio of positive interaction, especially when we are dealing with remote connections. 99.9% of our contributors and users are not in the same area. Half of you we've never even seen face to face. So the only judge we have of who you are as a person is the way you interacted with us on IM, email, and on social media, believe it or not. So think about that. I get you're frustrated. I get you're upset and pissed off. What is 141? I know is a pretty common one that people get icky about. But do you really want to come to here and meet me, and for me to associate you as the person who told my husband he was a blankety blank blank, the other words I can't say? Is that the impression you want to make? I don't think so. Also, many people are able to be recruited through open source for better positions and jobs. One of the things that open source is really sexy about is that it can help you. If you come in and interact with us, maybe today you decided you were going to go in and tell Simon he's an idiot, okay? What happens in 2 years when you go to work for somebody who says, oh, we use Selenium, and we'd like you to work on that open source? Oh, shit. Don't burn bridges. You need to be careful. Moving along to the top is our IDEO development team. How many of you can honestly say that you've worked on a team that was dysfunctional, that wasn't cohesive, that made you feel less than, that you didn't have a voice? It sucks, doesn't it? Oh my God. I remember hating group projects in graduate school because I always felt like I was the one doing all the work and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure many of you have felt that way in your work as well. So, one thing that's worth mentioning, the ego is the ultimate antiseptic, or analgesic really, to feeling stupid. So when that ego comes out very defensive, it's because we're trying to protect ourselves from feeling stupid when there's a good chance we were. All right. So how many of you have been told your code sucked? Yeah, everyone on Selenium, but anybody else out there? Right. Anybody ever do art? No? No? Anybody ever do music, have children who do art, things like that? Okay. What would that feel like if your child came home with this wonderful picture of I don't know what, but apparently it's wonderful, and you said, ah, that's crap, let's throw it away? Would you just do that child? We never grow out of that shit, guys. We need this. We need positive reinforcement. That is how we develop connection and trust. Code is art. I'm going to keep saying this. You require so much talent to be able to do abstract reasoning with logic, mix it together, and make a pretty thing on my computer. Art is our culture's way of raising a voice and sharing what's going on in our world outside of the history books written by the winners of wars. Art is something that comes from within, and every time you stare at a beautiful piece of work or a crappy one, that's a piece of somebody, time and energy that they put in there, and coding is no different. It is no different. That is time you took away from your babies, from your hobbies, from your work, to be able to do something good in the world and then to have somebody come back and say you suck. That's hard. All right, so we're going to kind of swim through. Code is intimate, just like art, just like sex, just like hugging and touching. It is intimate. When you start to connect, remember, we are connecting when we reach out. Remember that if something is intimate, it's going to create a visceral response. We want to make sure that visceral response is a good feeling, not a bad one, because then when they see your name later on an email, what's going to happen? They're not going to want to pick it up because we avoid things that make us feel uncomfortable. Before I go any further, I need to explain the very basic building block for our framework called the bid and the turn. The bid is any interaction that you have. Jim, will you come on out, please? Any action that you have that is a cry out for connection. It could be eye contact, like little Princess Poopy Paws. She peeks up like, pay attention to me, and if I didn't hear her, she'd start yelling at me, literally, or howling. A bid can be a touch. A bid can be an example. A bid could be, hey, I would like to go up to bed. What are you thinking? I'm telling you, if you don't go up to bed with her, you're screwed, okay? That is a bid. Now, there are 3 responses to bids, and this is the part that you really need to learn if you're going to be communicating. You can turn away from a bid, okay? So here I've bidded, Jim, I need you. Jim, I need you. So he's turning away from my bid, and his wallet just got much thinner. We're going to Tiffany's after. Turning away means you're ignoring it. And in behavioral therapy, we call that extinction. And what we know is that behavior that's ignored goes away. So if you're in a relationship with someone and they keep pinging, hey, 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 eventually they're going to stop. Now, sometimes we want that. That'd be great. That would be wonderful. But if you've been attacking the developers, what are the chances that you might be a priority next time you need something? Not very hard. They're probably going to kind of ignore your bid because you've been making them uncomfortable. True? Although, knowing our guys, they'll still answer. Let's see. You can turn against a bid. Jim?
I'm in the middle of this right now. Sorry. I'm in the middle of this.
Jesus, Lexus dealership then. All right, so what that is you are having a negative interaction with someone who's trying to connect with you. We're going to give you software examples in a moment, just so you know. So what happens with this is there are a few things. You're telling the person who's bidding that if they try to reach for connection, there needs to be conflict, okay? Or it immediately puts the bidder on the defensive. Damn it, I'm in the middle of this talk and you wanted me to do it. Right? Or it creates a wall to intimacy and connection, and it reduces your ability to create positive reactions with each other or positive interactions with each other. Now, here's what you're supposed to do with a bid. Jimmy.
Hey, I think it's a great point you're making about bids, and I think we should talk about it a little bit more later.
Pretty easy so far, right? It gets more complicated. You have to practice this stuff. So now we need to discuss the language of influence. There's Gary Chapman, who wrote the love languages and languages of apology. Well, we also have languages of influence that we use in diplomacy work. And very similar to a love language, and what a love language is the way to connect to the person you care about and the way that they can interpret it. Like this, it's no different than like French and German and English. Well, the love language of contributors is gratitude. Gratitude. Hey, Jim, thank you for doing all that hard work you've done on WebDriver. I really appreciate it. And I'm having some struggles. Can you help me with them? Ask permission, ask for consent. I had a great metaphor about opinions today that they're telling me I can't use, but let me just say that. You can have an opinion, you can love them, you can be proud of them, you may want to show that opinion to the world, but I promise you, if you don't ask consent, that might turn out to be not a very good thing. All right. Always, always, always in a cold bid, and that is all computerized bids where you are not actually interacting with a person, always start with a soft startup. My son calls it the honey and the hatchet. I like your shirt, I like your pants, you're wrong. We don't really say we're wrong. We'll say, can you help me understand why we made this choice? Always go in with understanding and curiosity. Don't go in with you suck. We get that you're pressured. We understand that you're frustrated and mad. Oh, trust me, I know. There was whole new slang words and profanity that I learned in my journey. But it's not acceptable to be processing your anger on my contributors. Not okay. They're the ones that are supposed to save you. If you went up to Superman and handed him kryptonite and told him, kicked him in the testicles, is he going to help you? No. That's what you do when you're ugly to us. Please don't. I think we're going to be getting close to running out of time. Reminder, the ego is the greatest anesthetic that we have for feeling stupid. Please keep your ego in chains. The minute that you start attacking somebody or somebody feels attacked based on your interaction, the ego comes out of the dungeon and then puts his butthole suit on and starts with like warfare stuff, and you can't win. How many people have ever had their political ideas changed by reading a post on Facebook? Seriously. No. There's a connection here. There's a thing called positive regard, and it's almost impossible to get back once we've lost it. I do this all day long in my practice. If you've taken the time and gotten to know each other and watch each other, the way you communicate, the way you, whatever, once you start establishing a connection, somebody is going to have a little bit more positive regard to what you have to say, and they're going to be more open to your influence. And the fact that you tell them that their code is crap. Okay. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, we're going to skip through and skip 2. 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, a John Gottman metaphor for the 4 things that we know will get you divorced, get you fired, make you lose employees. By the way, a sign of a good leader is someone who can make you feel like you're the most special person in the world. Defensiveness. This is the ego starting combat.
An example from a Selenium issue. I did not experience this issue until yesterday, and nothing changed.
Okay, so...
Actual comment from an issue in Selenium Bug Tracker.
Yeah, I mean, so... Okay, I understand, but I need more information. I don't need you to defend yourself. What I need is a little more information. Stonewalling, that's a complete shutdown. Someone's cortisol is way too high. They're not able to access brain B, which is the one that's reasonable. They only access the impulsive... Okay. Go ahead.
Move on.
Oh, move on? Okay. Criticism. This is saying what the other person is doing is wrong.
An example? To be honest, most of the discussion I've seen here above is pointless. Fact. A web testing tool that does not handle this feature at all is simply defective. No excuses, no BS. The excuses paraded here by the devs have been incredibly lame.
Issue 141, their nemesis. Now, I have to tell you, that one was blended with our 4th Horseman, which is contempt. Please read it.
You can just ignore another user's request, but you'll have another user less. This is simply not caring. I will neither use Selenium nor advertise it somewhere because I won't use it.
Threats.
I guess you guys don't mind, but I now regret having taken the 2 hours to get everything set up with it and blogged it. There are alternatives, and I'm going to use them.
Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. That's not okay. That is telling my contributors here, my #1 commodity for my project, that they're stupid and you're smarter. My opinion is, show me what you got. Let your work speak for itself. Of course, this particular person was too much of a wuss to do so. So big thing, we're going to start at the bottom shelf because they're playing the music and I have to get off stage. Recognize how you bid, turn towards them. Recognize how your staff bids, turn towards them. Soft startup, when you're trying to reach out to a contributor, it's just good manners. And try to avoid the contempt, the criticism, the defensiveness, and such. Please also do so in your relationships so you can keep them strong as well. All right, since I'm off the stage, if there are any questions or anything that you have for me, I'll be hanging around the conference. And thanks for coming to this kind of fun little odd talk. Thank you.